There are some women whose lives look beautiful from the outside, like a well-painted house with bright flowers at the gate. People pass and admire it. They say, she's blessed. They say God has favored her. But they do not hear what happens inside the walls when the door closes. Let me tell you the story of Naya. Naya grew up in a compound house in Aba, where everybody knew everybody's business. She was the kind of child who preferred books to noise. While other girls played ten-ten or danced to the latest music, Naya sat under the mango tree reading her father's old newspapers. She liked stories about strong women. She liked the idea that a woman could be soft and still powerful. Her mother used to tell her, "Naya, marriage is not a playground. Choose well, because once you enter, you endure." Naya nodded, the way good daughters nod, but she secretly promised herself that her marriage would not be endurance. It would be love. Naya met Tunde during her NYSC year in Port Harcourt. He was not the loud type. He did not spray money at clubs or brag about cars. He spoke calmly. He listened. When she talked about wanting to start a catering business one day, he said, "I like a woman who dreams." Tunde visited her parents properly. He prostrated. He spoke respectfully. He brought wine and kola nuts. The elders were impressed. He prayed with her family before eating. Tunde said all the right things. And of course, they got married. The wedding was loud and joyful. The drums beat until midnight. Naya's friends danced barefoot. Her mother cried quietly when she entered the car to leave. Naya truly believed she was stepping into the life that she had imagined. The first few months were gentle. Tunde and Naya cooked together. They watched movies on the couch. He brought her small gifts. When she burnt steel once, he laughed and ordered food instead. Naya felt very safe. It was truly her love story. It was truly as she had imagined. But soon, there was a change. And the change did not arrive as violence. It started at correction. One evening after church, he asked, "Why did you greet that man like that?" Naya was confused. "Like what?" "You smiled too much," he said. She laughed, thinking he was joking. But Tunde was not. After that day, he began to notice everything. The way she tied her wrapper, the way she spoke on the phone, the time she returned from the market. If she took too long, he asked who she met. If she dressed nicely to go out, he asked who she was trying to impress. Naya tried to reassure him. She thought maybe he was insecure. She thought maybe love would calm him. But soon, he began to hit her. The first time Tunde hit her, it was during an argument about money. She had gently suggested that she could start selling small chops from home because she missed earning some money for herself. She wanted to feel useful. But Tunde did not take it that way. His face changed in a way that she had never seen before. He asked her if she thought he was incapable of providing, but she tried to explain. But her words were cut short by the sound of Tunde's palm against her cheek. It was not even very hard, but it was enough. They both stood there in silence, shocked. Tunde began to cry. He said he was under pressure. He said his business was not going well. He said she should not push him when he was stressed. So she held her face and told him it was fine. That night, she lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling fan, listening to it spin. She told herself that this would never happen again. But it did. The second time, there were no tears from him, no more crying from him. The third time, he said, "You just know how to provoke me." That sentence changed something inside her. It planted doubts in places where confidence used to live. And then days began to turn into careful routines. Naya began to learn. She learned how to read Tunde's footsteps when he entered the house. The way he dropped his keys told her his mood. The way he cleared his throat before speaking told her whether she should answer softly or remain silent. In public, they were perfect. He held her waist at events. He introduced her to others as my beautiful wife. He laughed loudly with friends. But Naya wore long sleeves, even in hot weather. Her mother once asked if she was happy. Naya smiled and said yes, because in many African homes, you do not complain easily about your husband. People will tell you marriage is not sweet every day. They will say men are difficult, and they will say at least he provides. But something else was growing inside Naya. Besides the fear, awareness was growing. Tunde liked to feel very important. He talked freely about his business dealings. He left documents open on the table. He bragged about property investments and side deals that were not exactly legal. Naya listened to all he was saying, and she began to keep a small notebook hidden inside an old cookbook. She wrote dates when he came home drunk. She wrote what he said during arguments. She wrote down names of business partners she overheard. She did not know yet what she was going to do with all this information she was compiling. She only knew that she needed to remember clearly. The night everything changed was a rainy Tuesday. Tunde came home late, soaked and angry. A contract had fallen through. Money was involved. He accused her of distracting him with useless ideas. This is a Naya who had barely spoken all day. And when she tried to walk past him towards the bedroom, he grabbed her arm and pushed her. Her head struck the corner of a wooden cabinet. The pain was sharp and blinding, and she slid down the wall and tasted blood in her mouth. Tunde stood there breathing heavily. For a moment, Naya thought she might faint, but instead of fear, something else was happening in her chest. She began to have some form of boldness. She began to have a deep, steady clarity. She saw her future in that moment as if someone had drawn it in front of her. She saw herself years from now, smaller, quieter, still apologizing for things she did not do. She saw the possibility of one push that would be her last. Well, the next morning, she went to a clinic alone. She told the nurse that she fell down. The nurse looked at her carefully but did not argue. She wrote detailed notes and asked gentle questions. Naya noticed that the nurse wrote more than usual. That evening, Naya created a new email account at a cyber cafe. She scanned copies of the clinic reports and she sent them to herself. She took photographs of her bruises. She kept writing in her notebook. One day she called her cousin Ada, who worked as a lawyer in Lagos. She told her, "I need information." Ada did not shout. She did not tell her to run away from home immediately. She only asked her questions and she explained her options to her. She told her to begin to gather evidence quietly. She told her to begin to prepare before confronting him. Preparation then became Naya's secret strength. She acted normal, she cooked, she attended church, she laughed in public, but inside she was studying. Tunde, on the other hand, believed he had broken her. He was so relaxed, and that was his greatest mistake. A few months later, he needed Naya's signature on property documents. He had plans to move assets around to protect himself from a possible investigation, and he trusted her blindly. When he placed the papers in front of her, she read them carefully. Then she began to ask him questions, specific ones, questions that revealed that she understood more than he thought that she did. Tunde's confidence cracked. "How do you know this?" he asked slowly. But instead of answering his question, Naya placed her own envelope on the table. Inside were divorce papers, copies of clinic reports, photographs, written records, financial details linking him to questionable transactions. Ada had helped her organize everything properly. For the first time since she married him, Naya saw fear in Tunde's eyes. He threatened her reputation. He said people will laugh at her. He said no man would want a divorced woman. He said she will regret it. Naya listened quietly. Then she said, "I would rather be talked about than be buried." The legal process was not easy. Some family members tried to persuade her to stay. In fact, some blamed her. Some told her she should forgive. But Naya did not turn back. The case against Tunde expanded when authorities began investigating his finances. The same pride that had made him violent was what made him careless. When he was arrested for financial crimes and assault charges, the compound was silent. Neighbors who once admired him avoided eye contact. Naya moved into a small apartment and she began to rebuild her life. She started a support group for women, nothing fancy, just plastic chairs in a rented room and having honest conversation. Women came quietly at first, and then more followed. Stories began to spill out from women like water from a broken pot. Some cried, some were still afraid. Naya did not speak loudly, she spoke steadily. A few months later, she met Daniel, who was a volunteer to the support group. He taught basic business skills. He was patient, he did not interrupt, he did not correct her tone. When he disagreed, he spoke gently. Love came slowly this time, like dawn instead of lightning. And she remarried a few years later in a small ceremony without noise or without excessive dancing. It was just a peaceful wedding. For a while, it seemed as if the story had settled into calm. It seemed like everything was fine. But then Naya began to have headaches. At first, she ignored these headaches she was constantly having. But these headaches became stronger. She felt dizzy sometimes. Daniel, her new husband, insisted that she see a specialist. And the scans showed damage from a head injury years ago. A slow complication that had been hiding quietly. The doctors explained that trauma does not end when the violence ends. This problem required surgery. The night before the operation, Naya sat alone and thought about the journey. She thought about the wedding. She thought about the different times when her head had hit the cabinet in the corner. She thought about the women who now depended on her voice, and she began to cry. She did not cry for herself. She cried for the version of herself who waited too long. The surgery was long, and Daniel waited in the waiting room praying silently for her. But thankfully, she survived. But she woke up chained. Her body was weaker. She walked more slowly. Some days she struggled with balance. The doctor said that the damage could not be fully reversed. The cost of staying with Tunde instead of leaving immediately had followed her into her freedom. Years later, when she stands before young women and tells her story, she holds no bitterness in her voice. She only speaks the truth. She tells them that violence rarely begins with blows. It begins with control. It begins with correction, with isolation. She tells them that waiting has consequences. And sometimes after her talks, a woman will stay behind and whisper, "This is my story." And when Naya hears that, she knows why she survived. Because some stories are not meant to end with the woman. They are meant to continue through others. One afternoon, after a support meeting, a young woman waited behind. She was barely 22 years old, newly married, eyes swollen from crying. She said quietly to Naya, "He has only pushed me once. Maybe I'm overreacting." Naya looked at her for a long time. Then she said something that she wished somebody told her years ago. She said, "It never starts big. It starts small. And what you allow teaches someone how to treat you." The young woman began to cry. And in that moment, Naya understood something deeper than revenge, something deeper than freedom. Her story was not just about leaving. It was about interrupting a pattern. Because in many homes, the drums are loud on the wedding day, but nobody prepares the bride for the silence that can follow. If telling her truth saves even one woman from waiting too long, then every scar has meaning. And somewhere tonight, in a different city, a woman is sitting on the edge of her bed after being told she talks too much, after being blamed for a man's temper, after being pushed and told it was her fault. Somebody is deciding, and maybe this time, that person would choose herself sooner. I do hope so. Now, if this story touched something inside you, please don't ignore that feeling. Share this with somebody who needs courage but doesn't yet have the words. And if you're watching this or you're listening to this and you see yourself in Naya's story, hear me clearly. Love should never require you to shrink. Respect should never be begged for. And silence should never be the price of marriage. Subscribe if you believe stories can heal. And I want you to comment and say, I choose myself, if you refuse to normalize pain. And please stay with this channel, because here we tell the stories people are afraid to say out loud. Stay blessed.